Welcome back, fellow dissidents. You know, there's often a lot of hyperbole and facetiousness, as I've stated in many episodes, while discussing politics in this country and in the world for that matter. But to adhere to any other label for the left, the leftist ideology, especially in this country, to adhere to any other label than cult or cultist is absurd to me. At this point, it is literally groupthink. It is regardless of how contradictory the ideology gets, people are in lockstep. They don't critically think about anything, and should the hierarchy of the ideology say to do something, they do. Should they say think something, they think. And to do outside of that is considered taboo. And that is literally what cultists do, and people inside of cults. Now right off top, I want to jump to a clip of a rock concert, and we'll discuss further after.
There are clean hands, washing them. Let me hear it if you've had the Pfizer vaccine.
For fuck's sake.
Let me hear it from Moderna. AstraZeneca. Let's hear it from the anti-vaxxers.
Unbelievable.
After watching that, the only thing that can be ascertained from it is that it is absolutely creepy. I mean, it is beyond the pale, the creepiest thing I have seen in real time. Okay, now rock and roll used to be, it could be a political statement, but it was basically a stand against the machine. There was a lot of adversity and a lot of passion about standing against the machine and the establishment as it is. Now, if this man would have came out and said, hey, wash your hands or whatever, and then gone on to proceed to rock and roll and left it at that, there's sure it's still kind of weird, but at least it's just it's preaching to hygiene. So while it's not really rock and roll in the sense of what it used to be, it's not cultish. But we constantly hear the word fascism thrown around in this country as if it has no meaning, and people don't even understand the difference between fascism, socialism, capitalism, and the rest of them. Okay, but this man, he says, "Who's got the Pfizer?" And then you just hear the crowd erupt. Yes! Who's got the Moderna? Yes! What about the anti-vaxxers? Boo! This is groupthink. This is cult-like behavior. There is no other way around it. And this is why, in my last episode, when I said that the worldviews were irreconcilable, this is exactly what I meant. Now, if you choose to get the vaccine, that's perfectly fine. If you choose not to get the vaccine, that's perfectly fine. But even just a couple years ago, the left was up in arms about Big Pharma, as they should, because it's a lobbying revolving door with politicians. It is fascism. This is why I brought it up. This is the literal definition of fascism. We've got the government and Big Pharma teaming up to force people to take a pharmaceutical product. It's medical tyranny and it's pharmaceutical fascism. But just within sight of a couple of years, the Cathedral and the establishment were able to convince a cult of personalities that Big Pharma is your friend. Not only is it your friend, it's your ally. And not only is it your ally, it's your mandatory regime. And people just adhere to it. If there was any amount of critical thinking, people would not go out of their way to call somebody who has the vaccine but is against vaccine mandates. They wouldn't go out of their way to call these people anti-vaxxers. There are plenty of people who just on principle have had the vaccine but say no to the mandates because they understand that just on its face it's absurd and it's wrong. If we actually were to adhere to this policy and everybody without any amount of thinking whatsoever just went out and got the vaccine as soon as the government told them, literally by that practicality, people would die in mass numbers. And that's not even to say that it is or it isn't effective. That isn't to say that it is or isn't toxic. That's just to say that every human body is different. And we have to treat it this way. That is why it's so beautiful that we separate the government from our medical our medical history and our medical policies. That is between you and a doctor, and just saying that you should talk to a doctor about the vaccine immediately gets you stricken to this anti-vaxxer bubble, regardless of what your actual circumstance is. Okay, and then we've got this, it's called the deep state, and that conjures up, these conspiratorial whims of the left. They just go, oh, he's a conspiracy, he's talking about the deep state, but little do they know, they are adhering to the principles and the regime of the deep state. The deep state is the bureaucratic apparatus surrounding DC and our federal government that are unelected bureaucrats. Okay, we're talking about the FDA, the CDC, the FBI, the CIA, all the three-letter agencies. None of them are democratically elected. And if you've been watching any of my episodes for any amount of time, you understand I don't agree with the democratic process in the first place. Because as Michael Malice says, my rights are not up for discussion, let alone for a vote. And that is such a beautiful way to put it. That is why I disagree with the democratic process. Because even if it's just picking representatives, that means that by principle, my rights are up for a vote by proxy of some representative. And I disagree. But even past that, say you do adhere, and that's fine. I'm not saying that I'm so omniscient that I know it all. But in my principles, I don't agree with the democratic process. But let's say hypothetically I did, right? All of these bureaucrats are unelected. So by that very nature, they are unaccountable. Now, the theory is they're supposed to be held accountable by our federal government. But instead, we've got big corporations, bureaucrats, and our federal government as a Leviathan trifecta of nothing but tyrannical power. And then you've got the mass media and big tech all colluded together, this big Leviathan of fascism. And while the leftists want to run around talking about how everybody else is a fascist so long as they don't adhere to the status quo, little do they know that they are adhering to the deep state and to this Leviathan we call the American empire. And now, I've been keeping up with Project Veritas for at least a couple of years now, and substantially more often than not, this man is doing fantastic work. Whether it's around the election, whether it's around the government as a whole, or the COVID regime, this man is, most people label him a conservative. But to be honest, I'm not sure that you can even say that, because he doesn't outright come out and speak about his actual political affiliation. Now, it's likely he is a conservative, but that's of no relevance. There is not another journalist in this country that is doing the work that he is doing. And he is doing outstanding. Now, to tie that and the cult together, I would like to show you this next clip.
Go to the unvaccinated, blow dart it into them. I remember reading about how with COVID trials, they were having an issue recruiting African American people.
Can't blame them.
I can't, but at the same time, blow dart. It's where we're going. There needs to be a registry of the people who aren't vaccinated. Although that's sounding very Germany.
The Germany that you're thinking of is it
Nazi Germany.
with like FDA or something?
Yeah. Again,
So unorganized.
low darts. It is the perfect answer. And since J&J is an mRNA, you have no issue of it counteracting with anything else. So again, you just shoot everyone. So drones. Drone darts. Easy.
How do we reach the minority populations?
Blow darts is always the answer.
Yes.
I will cheers to that.
Yes. Cheers.
Only and only inside of a cult would this kind of rhetoric be not only accepted, but it would be revered. This man, we always hear the left talking about any kind of policy that has adverse effects on minority communities is by definition systemically racist. And that's wrong on its face. But let's follow that logic to its conclusion and link it to this. This man is obviously, Project Veritas. I'm not sure what they're doing to get this, to get these people so comfortable to just espouse their beliefs to whoever they're talking to. But they're doing a fantastic job. And keep up the good work, James O'Keefe. You're doing fantastic. But this man is so comfortable in his own skin talking to somebody else that he just outright says they want to blow dart the vaccine into anybody who doesn't take it. And there should be a registry of people who don't take the vaccine. Now, this is just absurd on its face. Like, even just asserting this should show how absolutely cultish and weird the left has become. But no, the left is holding it up. They're saying, yes, we agree. Yes, this is exactly what we want. And since this has been published, the man has taken down his Twitter because he's getting attacked for how absolutely absurd it is. And, people are trying to give some kind of criticism to James O'Keefe because he connected it to Nazi Germany. In the fact that he took, the man did it, he said it himself, that it's kind of like Germany. And he was saying something to the effect of, it was like the Nazi regime, but who cares? We need this. So the cult has gone so far that they accept the parallels. If we talk about the parallels between the left and Nazi Germany, oh no, you're the Nazi, you're the fascist. But as long as they see the parallels, well, it's justified because we're leftists. But nevertheless, he took it a little bit further, and he said that it was like Nazi Germany and the yellow star of David. And people are trying to say that there's some kind of criticism to be had. That's exactly what this man is saying. That's exactly where this policy is headed. That's why I don't mind to draw the parallels. I've been drawing the parallels of this fascist government and the left who adheres to it for years now. It is what initially drove me to anarchism and its philosophy. Because we've obviously tried and failed at limited government. We've tried. And should you be of the position to limit government, then that means that you believe that the market can solve problems that the government can't. And if you take that to its logical conclusion, that means no government. That means we abide by certain principles and we privatize the police, the courts, and everything else. But that's besides the point. What I'm saying is, this is what drove me to anarchism. Because after the failed attempt of limited government, and it was a brilliant try, I'm not saying that the separated powers of the U.S. government wasn't a brilliant attempt at government. It was the most successful system up to this point. But obviously, it has deteriorated so far to the point where the democratic elections are contested every single year, and the opposition to the incoming president is so voracious that people are willing to have a cold civil war over it. Now I hear people contest this all the time and say, "Oh, it's not a civil war." There's no, in today's day and age, sure there is kinetic warfare in the Middle East and abroad, But generally speaking, it's fifth generational warfare. They do it with propaganda and ideas. And when people are living through a revolution or some kind of civil strife, historical events, you have to be separated by time to understand them retrospectively. Hindsight is 2020, right? Well, that's exactly what we need to understand that as they talk about, they'll talk about the 2008 collapse, and then they'll talk about Occupy Wall Street, and then they'll talk about, all of the civil strife and conflicts that have been happening over the last, 12, 15 years. And scholars have already said that we're in a cold civil war. It's been printed in the mainstream press. It's becoming more and more tolerable, the idea that we are in fact in a cold civil war, and people are using rhetoric and propaganda to prop up their side through politics, through culture, and in some amount of time, people will look back and they will see that this stretch of period of time is in fact a cold civil war. And people always ask, how could people... Everybody always thinks that if they were in Germany at the time of the Nazi fascism regime in the Third Reich, that they would be the ones to say, no, this isn't right. But you don't understand that you only see that way because of modernity, because of modern times. Morals as a base level have changed. But as we see the cult of leftists in this country cheering on somebody who says we should chase down and register unvaccinated people, specifically African American minority people, and blow dart the vaccine into them and then cheer for it. There is no doubt in my mind that this is exactly how Nazi regimes and Bolshevik regimes and Maoist regimes come to power. Because the propaganda becomes a parasite, and through culture and politics, the parasite spreads. I would argue that this parasite that has caused this cultist behavior is much, much more adversarial to our liberty than any virus in the world right now. And that's a fact. There's often a lot of rhetoric from each side. And sure, there is a I'm not even going to say what the number would be, but I know it's smaller, indefinitely smaller than the cult of the left. The amount of people on the right who are so zealous about Trump, they call them the Trumpists and all this. Sure, there is the people who believe that at any given time, they're going to reinstate Trump and they're going to lock up a bunch of politicians and wash away the filth from Washington, D.C. Sure, there's cultist-like people on both the left and the right. The difference is, it's not the status quo on the right, and the people on the right that are zealous and cultist, they don't have institutional power. They don't have cultural power. The people in Congress, there's probably a handful of Republicans that are worth a damn, and then the rest of them are all part of a uniparty. Just like when you seen Mitch McConnell give a nice little high five to Kamala Harris after reaming each other out in the mainstream press, in the corporate press. It's a uniparty. It's considered a duopoly, but what's the difference? What's the difference? Sure, they claim, you got one side who says, slow down, Democrats. And then you got the Democrats running full speed to the progressive ends. It's not progressive, it's regressive. If they were progressive liberals, they'd be trying to limit government intervention in economics. Because that's what original liberalism was. But they're not. They're adhering to any kind of non-principle, any kind of cultish behavior that will net them more power. And they're good at it. Ooh, are they good? They've spent over 70 years taking over all the cultural institutions, Hollywood, academia, politics at large. They've slowly organized and acquired and centralized power. And it worked. This is why, even as a left of center liberal, as Tim Pool, I disagree with him on a good portion, but I trust his journalism. Because while he has biases, he lets you know his biases, and he posits them as such. But he has grown organically, because regardless if you're a zealot from the left or right, he tries to posit the facts. And he's creating culture. I pay the $10 for Timcast. I do. You know why? Because I see what's coming. I see what he's doing. His vlog, while even in its infancy at this point, is brilliant. It's brilliant. It's just friendly shenanigans and culture building. And he's doing great journalism. Plus, he's got many other shows on the way. So even though, I don't believe in limited government, and he's a left-leaning libertarian, so while we could argue for days about the principles and policies that we disagree with each other on, what's more important is the culture. So I support it. But even he sees that this is not something that's sustainable. I got a message after my last episode that said, "Oh, well, you contradicted yourself. You said that the America we know is gone, but there is a way to save the country." And I did say that. I did, but let me differentiate. The America we know is gone. And it is gone forever. But we can save our country. Like I said, the two worldviews are bifurcated in such an irreconcilable way that there's no point in even trying. That's why I'm making this video. To posit these videos that I've seen to show the cult-like behavior, because this is the status quo. This is the status quo. Okay, but we can save what we believe as a country. And we can argue about economics and healthcare later. But we have to stand against the COVID regime, or else it all fails. And then, it's going to be bad. If it all crumbles and nobody stands up, it is going to be an authoritarian police state unrivaled by any other one in human history. And that means we all lose. So by that sentiment that I said in my last episode, I mean we can avoid the authoritarian police state. But we cannot, to get people out of a cult, you have to remove them from the cult and deprogram the cultish ideas. But that cult is the status quo. That cult is literally in every school, every cultural institution, every TV show, every aspect of media, culture, and music and art. So you would have, there's no way. So what we must do is stand against it, call it out for what it is, and it's a cult. And we have to withdraw ourselves from the cult-like economy that they've built and build more culture. Organize our own parallel economy. And hope, for the sake of everybody, that it doesn't become kinetic. I'll stop with that. By all means. If you enjoy this content, please like, share, subscribe. I'll catch you on the next one.